Hello and welcome to the Goldenrod Podcast. I'm Ben. As always, I'm joined by fellow Pokemon enthusiast Conor to bring you some of the latest and greatest Pokemon news and a few laughs along the way. This week, we're discussing the Pokemon Company winning a $15 million copyright lawsuit. We're also discussing Nintendo and the Pokemon Company filing a new ride mechanic patent. Speaking of patents, Nintendo and the Pokemon Company file a lawsuit against Palworld for multiple patent infringements. We'll be going into that in great detail shortly. And finally, rumors on the Nintendo Switch 2, the Super Switch, and what that means for Pokemon Legends ZA and just Pokemon in general. As always, you can jump to a topic using the timestamps in the description below. That is a bumper-packed episode, Conor. Are you looking forward to all this?
I am, and do you know what? I am sad that we missed last week. I'm really sorry about all the missed episode, guys. It is entirely my fault. I have not been well recently. Beat me up in the comments, please do. I am doing all right today. Thank you very much for asking.
Good.
How are you, good sir?
I'm great. Yeah, I'm really, really good. I have had a couple of weeks doing absolutely not a lot, to be quite honest with you. It's been quite nice, relaxing. Start my new job on Monday, so that is like fast coming around, and it's predominantly remote working as well, which is really nice. So I'll be able to just roll out of bed in the morning, which is fantastic.
So back to our 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm definitely working, but I can record record a podcast.
So not that remote, unfortunately. I mean, that was it. My not old job, but my old job. I was just like, yeah, whatever. I'll just move the hours around and whatnot. Although this job is very flexible, but obviously, brand new job. You don't want to take the mick, do you?
Not just yet.
Especially,
give it a couple
not
weeks.
Just yet. Not yeah. We'll see how it goes. But I'm really looking forward to starting the job. They are in the process of getting me a. Is it a MacBook? MacBook's the laptop, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm about getting me one of them because I'm going into a role that basically does a lot of the stuff that I enjoy for YouTube. So filming and graphic design. So I'm like, yeah,
tasty.
Quids in, win it. Yeah, I get to hopefully that whole saying of find a job that you love and you never work a day in your life. Well, fingers crossed.
Oh,
I've yet to find a job that Thank you. I have yet to find a job that delivers that. But
it's nice to see another person having their YouTube career put to good use.
Yes. Oh yeah, definitely. And it's always been one of the great things that I've enjoyed about YouTube is the fact that as I've progressed in my career and I get to do less of the stuff that I enjoy in comms and marketing in my industry. YouTube's given me that outlet to kind of go, I can still do video editing. I can still do graphic design because I really enjoy it. And I get into such a zen mode when I'm doing this. And I find it so relaxing. So the fact that I've managed to find a job in that's predominantly remote working and pays all right, actually. Pays quite nicely. So it's, hopefully this is a job for, see me through the next 5 to 10 years. I'm hoping. I guess we'll see.
I got my fingers crossed for you.
Thank you very much. Let's jump into the first topic this week. That the Nintendo Switch 2 launch is apparently being moved forward, reports are claiming, and this is due to the PS5 Pro release. Now,
supposedly.
So we all know that the Nintendo Switch 2 has been up in the air as to when it's been announced, to the point where everyone knows that it is in development, if not already completed, to the point where Nintendo have had to come out and actually say, this next event that we've got, it won't be there. So everyone is just waiting to find out a little bit more. Now, there's been a slew of rumors that because of the PS5 Pro being announced, it's going to be shown off within the next 6 weeks. This is according to a report on Taiwan Economic Daily News, and this is via Google Translate. So internal executives at Nintendo have decided to advance the launch of the company's next console to before the end of this year, in a move stimulated by the early launch of the Sony PS5 Pro. It will go on sale around the world in the fourth quarter at the earliest, the report states. However, it's unclear if this means the end of the the year or the end of the financial year. So that would either put it in December or by the end of March. Also, alongside this, new images were released of a supposed leak of the Switch 2. So they were published in the middle of September. There was a few things that were shown in this image. So we got a picture of the new version of the Joy-Cons that are magnetic, that have some kind of magnetic connection. In the description, there's also a mention of 2 USB-C ports placed at the top and the bottom. It's got an 8-inch screen. Now, is this real? I've seen comments and rebuttals on both sides. The thing that is basically everyone saying no, it's not, is because these are just CAD images that someone has designed and thrown on online. Whereas Digital Foundry has stepped in to say that they've inspected the motherboard that is in one of the images, and it looks quite genuine. Apparently, the comment I read was that it would take quite a lot of effort in order to fake that, because all the little, I don't know, motherboards, whatever the little bits are that are all on them, apparently are in places that make sense for that kind of piece of equipment. So, with all that being said, let's start, I think, with the comment about the PS5 Pro, because you pulled your face at that, and I completely agree with you, because the thing, and I'm not sure if you're going to say the same as me here, is PlayStation and Nintendo, don't get me wrong, there's a crossover of players, but they are very different audiences.
They are, especially when you're talking about the PS5 Pro, which in and of itself is already going to be such a niche product. For those of you who aren't aware, the PS5 Pro has been announced. It's a PS5 with a better graphics card and I think better CPU in it. And it's going to cost 700 quid. That's a lot. That's like almost double the price of, and that's the discless version as well. That's like almost double the price of a disc drive PS5, right? How much does that cost? PS5.
It's about 300 now, isn't it?
Disc edition.
Depending on where you get it from.
480 new.
I've seen it cheaper than that.
I'm just going off. So this is straight Argos. So this is the first thing I found. 480 for the disc version and 390 for the discless version. So not quite double, but that's the kind of price bracket you're looking at. You're talking about £300, £400 more. That's a lot of money for what is effectively a graphics bump to play the same games. Now, we all know that Xbox is dead. As far as the console wars are concerned, Xbox lost. Most people don't own an Xbox anymore. If you do, that's not a slight at you. Enjoy your games. But
enjoy your Games Pass. Best thing ever.
Yeah.
100%.
But the Games Pass is almost what killed the Xbox.
Yes, agreed.
It's more valuable now to just actually invest in better hardware in the form of a PC that can do more than an Xbox can.
Yeah.
And get all your day one releases that are Xbox exclusives on your PC. Now, PlayStation have started moving a lot of their exclusives over to PC, but they do it 6 months to a year later, which has allowed them to keep those day one exclusives and has allowed them to capture some of the market that wants those early versions of Spider-Man. They weren't the early versions of Horizon, God of War, whatever the case may be. They want it, so they're going to buy a PS5. I don't think enough of that audience, at least from what I've been seeing online, and again, the vocal minority may be a factor here. There may be some people who go, no, I definitely want the latest and greatest. I don't see a lot of people forking out 700 quid for this console when they can play the exact same games on a PS5. So to suggest that the Switch 2, the Super Switch, is being rushed out to compete with this doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because we know for a fact that it's going to have worse hardware, because it's a Nintendo product. It's always going to have worse hardware,
and it's a handheld. Yeah, it will have lesser hardware. That's just the nature of it.
But that's never been an issue for Nintendo, because they have the exclusives. They have a long list of Nintendo exclusives that people want. So they could release this whenever they want and people will go out and buy it. as long as it's got the games library to back it up. So I don't buy that it's here to compete with the PS5 Pro. That makes zero sense to me. Is there something else that it's got to release early to compete with? I don't know if we're getting like a Steam Deck update or Asus. I always forget what the Asus one is called.
Oh, I'm not sure.
If that's getting a version 2 something very soon that maybe the Nintendo spies have cottoned onto and they want to get out before then, that makes more sense to me because that's their more direct competitors. That's yes. Something that actually does compete with the Switch. And as we've learned, like their only combative force at the moment is to launch litigation and lawsuits against emulation, basically, at the moment, which is how a lot of people were using this hardware to play Nintendo games. Makes sense. Yeah, I don't know why they would rush it out. If they've got a planned date, I don't know why they would rush it out. So here's the other thing as well, right? So we knew it was going to get announced this fiscal year. So that's by April, basically.
Yeah.
They would be fools to announce it anytime between now and December.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to cannibalize the Switch sales for Christmas.
Yeah. Unless it comes out before Christmas. But
it won't. There's no way.
I can't see that. Not this late. Could you imagine announcing
you're talking
end of
about,
September?
You're talking at least 6 to 8 week turnaround between announcement and release, right? So that's 2 months. So unless they announced it tomorrow, this is not getting out in the November rush for Christmas. It's just not happening.
No.
It doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen. That's just me saying I don't see it. I would expect to see this announced early February.
Yeah, because by that point, Christmas sales have happened. The post-Christmas sales, the discounts have happened. And then they get the chance to double dip of people that have bought it. But then, oh, by the way, Switch 2 is coming out. That makes everybody happy. Go on.
There is an alternative to here. So we did a piece a couple of weeks ago about the fact that Nintendo sales are down. Game sales are down on the Switch. We haven't got access to all the data that they have. If somebody said, hey, we're not selling enough Switches as it is, because people know that Switch 2 is coming, whether you announce it or not doesn't matter at this point. Get it out the door. Because now we're just losing sales even longer. So that's a possibility. I
think the thing that backs up an earlier, so end of this year, so end of before December, what could potentially back that up is if it is backwards compatible, because then it doesn't matter, because it's a case of, oh, you know what, it's backwards compatible. Oh, I'll just get the Switch, because chances are the Switch will come down in price if a successor is announced. I mean, the Switch has held its value quite well.
Nintendo products always do.
They do, yeah, exactly. So, Nintendo might be thinking, you know what? People are going to buy the Switch 2 at some point anyway. And we're not going to have to drop the price that much. So, you know what? Let's have Christmas, Switch and Switch 2, because people that, either way, we win as a company, because people either buy the Switch or they buy the Switch 2, which is higher value. And if it is backwards compatible, well, great. People keep the games and go, I'll keep that game for the Switch 2 when I eventually play on that. I'm not going to, trade it in or anything else like that. I mean, we're at the stage now where it's all rumors and speculation. I think the thing that is stopping me from thinking that it will be out before Christmas is the fact that, the issue with the Switch launch was that it sold out everywhere. They don't want a repeat of that. And unfortunately, the turnaround time between, if they announced it at the end of this month, end of September, you've only got a couple of months to get as many units out as you can. If that was the case, I think we would have seen more details in terms of, if they're mass producing these now, I'm sorry, we would have had more leaks
We'd have heard it, yeah. This wouldn't have been kept quiet.
No, exactly, because you'd be able to see them in production centers. You would see the boxes, instruction manuals, the actual, an actual version of that. You'd see it all. So that makes me think that this isn't coming out until, probably start of next year, by April at the latest. But I think the big takeaway from this is, if this is legitimate, if this is how it looks, how it functions, I think it lends credence to the fact that it's backwards compatible, which for Legend Z to A is something that we mentioned of, is it available on both consoles? And is that why this, Pokemon Legend Z to A has been held back from being marketed? Because you can't talk about the Legend Z to A on what console it's on, because we haven't announced the console yet.
We have actually had our first, I forget what the game is, but we've had our first game announced for the Super Switch. It is it is officially on Nintendo Switch and to be announced Nintendo platform.
Oh, okay.
So,
what is it?
It is official. I forget what it's called. Switch
is it
2 game. I feel
is
like
it a big
I
game?
No.
Is it
no,
not?
it's a Japanese sequel.
Oh, okay.
My Time at Portia sequel. Portia.
No. Right. Okay.
Yeah. My Time at Evershine.
Oh.
Is getting. Let's have a look. Nintendo. No, I don't want that one. Control F. Yeah. So, My Time at Evershine will be next game in the series from the studio Pathia Games, and its confirmed platforms include future Nintendo platforms yet to be announced.
Oh, so companies are working on games that will be available on the Switch successor. Yeah. I mean, we knew that anyway, but it's good to have that confirmation.
So, what I want to know now, bringing it back to the PS5 argument. Are we going to see a Switch successor like we would expect to see, like an actual sequel console? Or is it going to be more iterative like we've seen with the PS5 Pro or the Xbox Series S and X? Is this going to be a case of, well, actually, it's just a Switch with better hardware and you can still play all your Switch games on it, and we're still going to release all our games compatible with the Switch or the better Switch 2? Which I think is a really cool idea in concept. The problem is the Switch is so old at this point.
Yeah.
And we have already seen how outdated its hardware is and how much stuff struggles on it. Like, we've seen the frame dips in the Legend of Zelda franchise and things like that, which are some of the most gorgeous games on there, but they don't play a consistent 30 FPS, let alone 60. You're not getting 4K on them. It's not keeping up with what people expect from a console these days. So I think you might end up handicapping your developers if you say, okay, anything you create for this new console also has to be able to run on the old one. And it's like, I'm sorry, you're asking me to run a PC game on a mobile phone. No.
There is some version of reality where this is just it's not a Switch 2, it is just a Switch Pro. Because you've hit the nail on the head in terms of the Switch has so many limitations that it does need an improvement. But if it was going to be a Switch Pro, that improvement probably should have been the OLED model a couple of years back.
Yes, I agree. That was the time we needed a Switch Pro.
Yes, exactly. I think at this point, if they put it out, I think it's just going to disappoint people. Oh, this isn't the Switch 2. This is literally just a improved version.
Yeah, but I can play the same games but better, and you're still locking them at 30 FPS because that's all the baby one can do. No, I don't want it.
And it gets to the point where you kind of think, well, if that's the case, then how much longer are we going to have to wait for the successor? Like if start next year it gets announced, it is just a Switch, a Switch Pro. I'm not buying it. I don't think most people buy it, because I think a lot, unless you're a hardcore, die-hard Nintendo fan, because I think most people think, well, 2 to 3 years' time, we probably will get a successor, because you can't have the days of consoles lasting 10 years, I think, are gone.
Yeah.
Because, go on.
Especially when your audience is already the Nintendo people don't care about graphics.
Yeah.
If that's your audience, you can't go, same but better. I don't care about better. I just care about playing the games. And if this is the cheapest way to play the games, I'll play the games that way. Now, of course, I argued earlier that they're now trying to compete with the Steam Deck? Yeah, Steam Deck,
Steam
not
Deck.
Stream Deck. I hate that they named those.
Oh, agreed.
But yeah, they're obviously trying to compete with the Steam Deck, which is more powerful hardware and plays the same games technically, not legally.
Technically, yeah.
So there is an audience for it, but it's not the mass audience which Nintendo would really be launching a console for. You know, I don't think Nintendo would pull the same thing that Sony are pulling and release a PS5 Pro.
Agreed. I honestly think, looking at this, that someone has leaked some of the details. How accurate that is remains to be seen. I think that this report about, it's going to be announced in the next 6 weeks, potentially being pulled forward, I think that's just an inside source that has overheard conversations. I don't think they're decisions. I think they are genuine conversations that will have happened, because of course they will have happened, because while the audiences might be different, they still operate in the same industry, which is, gaming. So of course you're going to have these conversations about, regardless of how you think about if Nintendo and Sony are competitors, they are, because they exist in the same industry, and therefore there's only so many gamers that have so much money. So of course there is some version of competition going on. So of course they're going to have conversations about, what's Sony doing? What should we do? Okay, let's do what we do best, which is typically we come out outside of the typical generation, console generation, like PS5 and whatever Xbox is now, Xbox X, whatever it is. They no longer live to the same cycle as Nintendo. So Nintendo's going to do their own thing. So I think the whole PS5 Pro, and because of that, Nintendo's going to rush out the Switch too. I think it's a non-starter. I think that Nintendo know that. And I think they won't want to be compared to other consoles out there, because I think it's to their detriment, unfortunately.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing it. And we'll go from there, I guess. Let's move on to the next piece of news, that the Pokémon Company wins a $15 million copyright lawsuit against a game that copied Pokémon characters. No, this is not Palworld. That comes later on. So the Pokemon Company has won around $15 million following a 2-year-long copyright lawsuit against a Chinese company that blatantly used Pokemon characters in its game. The mobile game was called Pokemon Monster Ryusui, I think, maybe. I'm not sure what it's called. It's got a Chinese name that I cannot pronounce. I wrote this a while back, so I've got Kudeyeg Uki Fuki. I don't know if that's correct. I have no idea. I've tried to spell it as I see it. I know what you're laughing at, and the audience is probably laughing as well. But anyway, the app used unchanged assets and characters like Pikachu, Ash Ketchum, Garioke or Blue, whatever you want to call them. I've seen images of Charmander and various other items and whatnot. However, the thing that surprised me about this was the app has been in operation without permission from the Pokemon Company since 2015. And IGN said that 1 year after the release, so in 2016, Pocket Monster Ryusui, I don't know, had already earned its developers $43 million. The Shenzhen Immediate People's Court has acknowledged the copyright infringement and ordered one of 6 companies accused to pay 107 million Chinese yuan, so about around $15 million in damages. 3 of the remaining 6 companies were ordered to bear joint liability but have filed an appeal. Now, have you seen any images from this game?
I think I saw a couple, and they are just Pokemon.
Yeah, let me send you a quick one in the chat just so you and me are looking at the same thing. That's
hilarious.
It is literally... It's Pokemon. It is Pokemon. It is literally... the image that I'm looking at is Charmander versus Squirtle. They've got the HP, the levels. They've got, the finger pointing at what moves that the Pokemon can use. I've seen images where they've ripped assets like Pokeball and other things from the games as well. However, the strange thing looking at these is it looks like some of them have actually been redesigned ever so slightly, or maybe drawn from scratch, but using the Pokemon artwork. Because Charmander and Squirtle, it's obviously Charmander and Squirtle, but it's a bit of uncanny valley because you've obviously seen Squirtle and Charmander so many times that you look at them and go, I know it's Charmander Squirtle, but there is something slightly.
It's not the Sugimari art style. It's not any official rendering that I've come across in a game, but it is clearly those Pokemon.
Yeah.
Do you know what this strikes me as? It's, when people create ROM hacks but don't use a base ROM, they build it from scratch.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's still distinctly Pokemon. That's what this feels like to me.
It really does. It's a strange looking thing because I'm looking at it, and if you'd have told me that this was a official Pokemon game from the late 90s, early 2000s, it was a PC only game that was on a disc,
came on a CD,
I would 100% go, oh, it's believable. I completely believe that. Yeah, I can see that. But I think the strange thing here is the fact that this took 2 years for this to go through. And it's obviously been in some... This game has been available since 2015, which is 9 years. This is actually crazy. And the only thing I can think of is, while it might have been an open and shut case, I've got a feeling it's because of you've got a Japanese company and a Chinese company, and just the back and forth probably just delays it so much. And remember that, folks, because we'll come back to that later on in the episode. And I can only think that that's the reason why this has taken so long, despite it being an open and shut case.
Yeah, I think the international litigation would be an absolute nightmare. I'm also going to point out here, because we need to be very careful, because we have defended fan games in the past, and I've just said, hey, this looks like any other fan game. Was this being sold?
I don't know, to be honest with you, but the fact that they've made money makes me think this. I think it was like monetization, like most mobile games are now. Are you Googling?
So it's monetized in some way. There was financial incentive towards making this. That is the line we have always drawn, and we said if you go past that, you're opening yourself up for trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just had to clear that up, because some people will be sitting at home going, "Why do you say this isn't okay, but fan games are?" That's it. That's the line. Don't make money out of it.
No, I could. Sorry, I'm just looking up to just double check. I am pretty sure it was like a couple of weeks back. I am like 99% sure I saw images of money, but no, you're absolutely right. That like fan-made games, I'm not, and I don't know if you're making this decision now as well, that I don't call them ROM hacks. They're fan-made games, just like the Sonic games are fan-made games. And as long as people aren't making any money off it and aren't doing any kind of serious damage to the Pokemon Company, Nintendo, Game Freak, then so be it. Absolutely fine with that. But the fact that this company used Pokemon assets and then tried to profit off of that is just unacceptable, unfortunately. So I am glad in this instance that Pokemon Company has won that lawsuit. But let's move on to the next piece of news. A Pokemon patent shows that Pokemon Legends Z-A is bringing back a fan favorite feature. So, website Comic Book Gaming has revealed that the Pokemon Company and Nintendo have filed a new patent. The patent does not explicitly mention Pokemon Legends Z-A. Sorry, folks, I copied that headline from a website. That's why. But it does indicate, this patent does indicate that Ride Pokemon will be returning in an upcoming game. The patent mentions, and I apologize for this because what we've learned about patents over the last couple of weeks is they are not, the way they are described are not typically, well, they're not well described, to be honest with you. So the patent mentions, and this is in quotes, smoothly switching a plurality of boarding target objects, and then it gives examples of on land, sea, and air. So while the player character is aboard the ground boarding target object or the water boarding target object, cause the player character to perform a jump action based on a second operation input. And if the first operation input is provided during the jump action, cause the player character to board the air boarding target object and bring the player character into a state where the player character can move in the air. That was a quote, word for word.
We love legalese. Patent legalese is ridiculous. Get
crazy.
used to that. You're going to hear a lot of it today. Cool. If we get better ways to switch between our Ride Pokemon and Z2A, I'm all about it, because that was probably one of the weaker aspects of the Ride Pokemon. Was the how you switch between them. Now, don't get me wrong, when you jumped off a cliff, you could immediately switch into bird. When you hit the water, you immediately switch to your fish. You could jump out of the water and switch in midair. It just wasn't really that convenient, but it was possible. I'd love to see this done. I'd love to see it implemented better. I'd love to see our balloon popping become even more intricate.
Yeah,
so
I love that game. That mini game is fantastic. Yeah,
it's cool.
It is.
Do we know when this patent was put through? When it was approved? Very recently, right?
I don't. Let me let me see if I can find it now. I mean, the thing that I do like about this patent is it kind of implies that it is going to be it's going to be an improvement on what we had in Legends Arceus. It feels like this almost is designed in such a way that you've got more functionality when you are on a Pokemon. Whereas Legends Arceus, you literally had to scroll left and right, and in certain circumstances, you could press A to, change the Pokemon or whatever. This feels like they want to do that, but make it a lot more seamless.
Now that being
said,
I'm
all for.
Is that not us maybe doing a little bit of wishful thinking? Is this them
Probably.
Possibly just patenting what they've already done in Legends Arceus?
Maybe. I mean, it'd be a bit strange if that's the case, because it feels like they are patenting something. They are patenting something, and I can't believe I'm saying this because we're going to talk about this as well in a bit. They're patenting something that has already happened.
Yeah.
Which feels strange to me.
Maybe they would have an alternate incentive for patenting something that they've already done.
Oh, maybe. I'm by the way, I'm trying to find this patent, and I can't find the two news outlets. Neither of them. Oh, hold on.
Oh, nobody ever points to the actual patent because they don't expect you to be able to read it.
I got it. May the 2nd, 2024. So it's quite old, and we've only just found out about it.
That was when it was approved.
So let me just double check.
Was that when it was approved or when it was filed? Because they're two different things.
Hold on. This application is a continuation of a US patent application filed on September 21st, 2022. This application also claimed priority to Japanese patent application number, it's a string of digits, filed on December the 22nd, 2021. The entire contents of all disclosures are incorporated. So I think you're right. I think this is them just going, this is just us updating the patent that we got for Legends Z-A. Because when did Legends Z-A come out?
Legends Arceus, you mean?
No, but yeah, Arceus. Sorry.
Okay.
Here we go. 2022, 28th of January, 2022. Yeah. So those patents were filed quite late on. I think you're absolutely right. This is just the patent for Legends Arceus.
Yes.
So, wishful thinking. I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, we also hope that as soon as Legends Arceus came out, they were working on Legends Z2A and they were patenting ideas ahead of time. But as we're about to see, that's not necessarily how Game Freak does things or Nintendo does things.
No, it's not. Sorry, I know you've just given like an amazing segue.
I know,
but
I'll give you loads.
But but I'm just reading some of the headlines here in this patent because it kind of breaks down. And there's drawings, but I can't seem to find the drawings, which is because the drawings are always hilarious. Where was that now? Hold on. I had it. Details, normal state processes. Okay. While aboard process, while aboard air character process. So this just sounds like while aboard ground character process. Yeah, this just sounds like the stuff that we already had in Legends. While aboard water character process. So it is literally just jumping between them, which is really while aboard cliff surface character process. It's just Legends Arceus, isn't it, this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which is really annoying because I honestly had, in my head when I read this, I had this idea of just being a lot smoother of the character being able to press a button and jump between their Pokemon that they've got.
Yeah, you theoretically want it to be as smooth as Miraidon and Koraidon were, but having multiple Pokemon.
Yeah.
Because that's what we want going forward, realistically, because we don't want a motorbike for every single Pokemon going forward. But
nope.
We need something that is, no, I jump twice and suddenly I'm flying. I press one button and I'm riding, and I just ride. You're riding. C and I'm on it, and I jump twice and I'm flying again. Like that's. Yeah. I need that in my life.
Agreed.
Fingers crossed we get it.
Fingers crossed. So speaking of patents, so let's move on to the big news article this week. The Nintendo and the Pokemon Company have filed a lawsuit against Pocket Pair for Palworld. So folks, you knew it was coming, and it's obviously Conor, because Palworld decided to nick a load of character designs, right? That's what
you're
this is
wrong.
About, right?
You're all wrong. It had nothing to do with the character designs. If it had something to do with the character designs, they'd have done this a long time ago. No, this is a crazy patent argument over patents that have just been filed.
This is crazy. So
I'll rephrase. Patents that have just been approved, because I just said they're very different things. Patents that have just been approved are now being taken to court.
Yeah. So I think we need to, just to help people understand this a little bit, because I've already seen, just since this news was released, people not understanding exactly the difference between a patent and a copyright. And I'm no expert on this, but I'm going to try and dumb this down, get rid of all the legal speak and just try and explain this a little bit more. So a patent lawsuit is not copyright. A patent lawsuit implies tech, design, and features. So how something runs within a game or a technical aspect. So previous examples that might help people that have played games in the past is the Nemesis system in the Shadow of Mordor games. There's a reason the Nemesis system has been seen nowhere else, because I think it's Warner Brothers, owns that patent design, which means that if you put it in your game, you will have to pay Warner Brothers or whoever owns that patent. Another one, apparently, is, and this makes sense now why we never see it anymore, that mini games in loading screens. There was a game that came out that had mini games in loading screen.
There was loads of them. It used to be the one of my personal ones that I knew of was all the Dragon Ball games were done by Bandai Namco.
That's it. Bandai Namco owned that patent. Yeah.
Yeah. And you used to have little things like when the loading screens would come on, you'd spin your joystick and grow a bunch of Cybermen, or you'd have to spin Master Roshi on his turtle and things like that. And they were never very good games, but they were.
But
it was a
better
way to
than
waste
watching
time.
a screen. Yeah. Better than just watching a little loading bar or a couple of tips scrolling through. Anyway, so this lawsuit has been filed for infringement of patent right against Pocket Pair Inc. And in quotes, this lawsuit seeks an injunction against infringement and compensation for damages on the grounds that Palworld, a game developed and released by the defendant, infringes multiple patent rights. Now, I have seen lots of people trying to figure out what patents they are referring to, because at this point, we don't actually know. It's not being released as to what these patents are. I've seen two big ones that most people seem to be moving towards. The first one that I came across first, which I think is the least likely if I had to say one, but it's basically the way that that creatures are stored within a system. So you've got the Pokemon games, you store them in the boxes. Palworld has their equivalent. That's the one I struggle with, because while they are similar, I don't know how else you could do that. I don't see a company being able to hold the patent on that, because it just feels so generic. Like Pokemon, the Game Freak doesn't do anything special about how they put the Pokemon in the boxes. The Pokemon just go in the boxes. But the big one that I've seen thrown around is the whole catching mechanic, throwing creatures out to battle, and the inputs you do to do that. That's what I've read up. Is that the one you've read about?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think, here we go. So this is the one I've got here is, so there's a publication number, blah, 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 abstract. In a first, and sorry, folks, this is that jargon again, so I'm just going to read it verbatim. In a first mode, an aiming direction in a virtual space is determined based on a second operation input, and a player character is caused to launch in the aiming direction. An item that affects a field character disposed on a field in the virtual space based on a third operation input. That's all one sentence, by the way. In a second mode, the aiming direction is determined based on the second operation input, and the player character is caused to launch in the aiming direction a fighting character that fights based on the third operation input. Application filed September 21st, 2022.
So, in non-jargon sense, you can aim at a Pokemon and throw a Pokeball at them. You can aim at a Pokemon and throw you can aim at a Pokemon, throw a Pokeball at them in order to catch them. You can aim a Pokeball at a Pokemon that's already got a Pokemon in it in order to fight them. That's what it's saying. Which is very, very interesting, because that wasn't a mechanic in Pokemon until very recently in Legends Arceus.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that in any other Pokemon game. Even in Scarlet and Violet, you can't just throw your Pokeball at a Pokemon.
No. I'm trying to think back. Sword and Shield you couldn't. BSP you couldn't. Let's Go you just ran to the Pokemon, and then you had the ball throwing
so
thing.
What it seems like, and I did preface, like this is one of the ones that has been approved this year, which is why people are speculating a little bit that, like, maybe that's why the lawsuit took so long, because they had to wait for the patent to be approved and then they could go forward with it. What it seems like, because I've got another one here, and the picture actually has, it's a dragon, it's got a cursor on the front of it, and it's got boss fight event with a health bar underneath it, and it shows they're not throwing a Pokeball, which to me reads it reads as throwing the bombs at the totem Pokemon. Not totem Pokemon. What were they called?
I forget this every single time. There's Cleaver, there's Arcanine.
Yeah.
What are they called?
Guardian Pokemon? Something like that? Oh. You know what we're on about. It's been a long day. So it looks like these are patents that were filed. And again, to give context to this, because we spoke about this before, so I need to make sure that the audience are fully aware of what's happened here. There was a parent patent filed in 2021. The rest of these have been filed since then. As we just saw, there was one filed in 2022 that was all about ride Pokemon that got approved back in May. A bunch of them have now just been approved. Now that they've been approved under that parent patent, they are legally viable to be used against Pocket Pair and against Palworld. Although they were approved in 2024, after Palworld's release, the initial parent patent was filed in 2021. So what the argument, I think, is that no, it's not that you've copied Pokemon's designs. No, it's not necessarily that, you've copied Pokeballs, which is very possible. Like there is an argument, and I think a very valid one, that you could have used anything other than a ball. I understand they call them Pal Spheres. It's a ball by any other name. It opens in the middle. Okay. The other thing as well is that it shakes 3 times.
3 times. Yeah.
Okay. To prove that it's been caught. Pokemon also own a patent on apparently how showing the success rate of a capture in any way. So whether it be a number of shakes, whether it be a color, whether it be a number that appears above it, they own all of that as a patent. So if you show a capture rate at all, so Palworld has the shakes and they have the percentage and they have the rotation ring with the number that climbs up. So in theory, they could argue about that. But this seems very much that they've gone, no, your gameplay is actually too similar to Legends Arceus, and that's what we're going to get you on.
Oh.
Which is strange because I will still argue that Palworld is more like Arc than it is like Pokemon.
Well, that's the thing. I can't help but feel the more I've kind of looked and read into this, that this is a targeted attack on Palworld. Because like you say, they could have gone against Arc. There are other games that have similar catch mechanics to Pokemon that, again, they could have gone after. Now, I think that there's a little bit of difference because some other creature capture mechanics, I think that they've done enough where it isn't a sphere. You don't show the catch rates, or they do it in a different way, where they've managed to get away with
uses cards, right?
Yes.
Now, I never played Temtem. I don't know how the capture... I'm going to look it up. Whilst you
have a gander.
I'm going to look at Temtem's capture system.
Do it. Cassette Beasts as well. There are multiple creature capture games that creature capture games. No one owns the patent on them because you can't, because it's so generic. It's like Call of Duty came out and went, yeah, we've got the patent on first person shooters. It wouldn't happen because it's you can't patent that level of detail. I don't know the phrasing for it, but there are certain things that if you try to patent, a judge would throw that out and go, no, you can't patent that. That's just so generic that anyone could feasibly use it. But mechanics is a completely different ball game, which is what we're now seeing here. You managed to find Temtem and how you catch.
So you it's very much the same. You weaken a creature, you go into your items, you select your item, you throw the item, and the only difference is that it circles around them once, twice, 3 times, and captures on a 4th.
Okay. Right.
Which you could argue is different, but is that much different than shake once, shake twice, shake 3 times stars?
Nah. Yeah. It's so similar. And this is the thing. This is why I think that let's say alternative universe, Palworld comes out and it gets the same reception as Temtem. It gets the same reception as Cassette Beast. It gets a couple of thousand dedicated players, and then everyone else kind of goes, okay, forget about that. A month passes and it drops off. The player base absolutely drops off. I don't think the Pokemon Company or Nintendo goes after them. The fact that Palworld has been so successful, the fact that it is, despite the fact that I do agree with some of the reviews that it doesn't really innovate in any way, but it takes a lot of what works well in modern video games and brings them all together, and that's what makes it a fun experience, as we spoke about when we reviewed it a long time ago. The fact that this game is now available on PlayStation, Xbox, PC, now is venturing into merchandise. I've heard rumors that there's an anime in early stages of production. Makes me think that they've kind of gone, we need to come out in front of this and try to damage them in some way. Like, part of me wishes that, this is me just being, optimistic that, people wouldn't do that to other people, but companies, unfortunately, they look after their bottom line at the end of the day, and if they think that another company is potentially, infringing on their patents, their rights, whatever, legal jargon you want to use, they're going to try and shut them down, or at least, recoup some of what they see as the damages that have been incurred.
I think they're going to have a struggle.
I agree.
I think they're going to have a problem because it's a patent lawsuit. Now, if it was copyright, they would have probably an easier time of it, because it's very easy to say this looks enough like this that it could be confused and therefore they've infringed. Fine. But when it comes to lawsuits, when it comes to patent lawsuits, and I am not a lawyer, this is not legal advice, this is all the disclaimers above. I don't know what I'm talking about. I am Googling stuff, okay? But you need to prove losses. You need to prove that damage has occurred to your company financially through this game's or through this patent infringement.
Hold on.
You tell me that Pokemon has not sold enough copies because Palworld exists.
On Scarlet and Violet was the...
Scarlet and Violet doesn't count. Scarlet and Violet doesn't have these patents involved.
Oh, it doesn't? Yes, it's Legends Arceus.
So maybe there's other patents. Again, this is multiple patents that they are claiming have been infringed, and there's possibilities that some of them are in Scarlet and Violet. Scarlet and Violet is one of the best-selling Pokemon games of all time.
Exactly.
You can't say that. Could they say that Legends Arceus has dipped off because Palworld came out? There's an argument, maybe, but I think it's a tough one.
Yeah.
So you've got to prove actual losses. The other thing that they can argue is, there's a licensing fee. You can use other people's patents, but you need to pay a license. And that's why people don't usually use other people's patents, because the license is stupid amount for what is actually involved. So they could sue on that. If they go, yes, that patent actually does hold up here, Palworld will have to pay a licensing fee. They will probably have to pay the expenses for the lawsuit and the lawyers and everything involved. Apparently, you can also be brought up on the profits earned by the infringer. So what they can argue is that it's because of the infringement on this patent that Palworld was so successful. Because they didn't pay for the license, Pokemon are actually entitled to so much of their profits because they basically built the game that Palworld is. Again, that's an argument that can be made. Whether a court sees it that way, let's not forget that these are both Japanese companies as well, and Japan is really strict on copyright law and patent law. So I think, although from an outside perspective, I think Pokemon will have a hard time. I think in reality, they wouldn't pull this forward if they didn't think they had it in the bag.
And the other thing as well to think about is, let's look at the size of Nintendo and the size of the Pokemon Company. They maybe don't even need to win. They just need to basically almost bully Palworld into...
This could bury them.
Oh, yeah. we've got a shed load of money. We have got some of the best lawyers in the world. Do you really want to go against us? Or would you rather just settle this out of court? Oh, okay, let's just settle it out of court. Or a case of Nintendo and Pokemon Company going, no, we don't want to settle out of court. We want to take this to court, and we're going to use our lawyers and the money that we have to basically make this process so long-winded that Palworld and its parent company basically they can't fight it because they don't have that level of income. They don't have that monetary, the level of money that they're going to need in order to see this through long term. Even if the Pokemon Company and Nintendo are in the right here, this feels very dirty, and I don't like it. Especially, and the thing that I think annoys me a little bit about this, and it's whether or not this could be, I don't know how this works legally, but, once if Palworld can go, oh no, you might have the patent. You filed the patent in 2021, but we were developing this game before the patent actually went live. Like, I don't know what that means. Does it not?
No, because they had the parent patent. And that was approved before the game came out. This is what patent lawyers have come out and said, that no, that parent patent exists. Anything they approve underneath that classes as, well, no, it was approved back in 2021. I know. How gross is that?
That's dirty. That's actually dirty. So in a real world, what could happen then is you get wind, whether or not this is via legitimate or dirty methods, that that company is building a game, they haven't filed a patent, and they have this certain mechanic. We've got the best lawyers and the best people in the world to file this. Let's patent this before that game comes out. And then that game comes out, and you go, well done, we patented that. We've got that.
It happens. Mate, patents
dirty.
are one of the worst things in the world, in my opinion, because it basically stifles innovation.
Yeah.
You talked about like the Nemesis system. How good would that be in every single open world RPG?
Yeah.
And we can't see it for another 10, 15 years yet until that patent lapse. Mini games and load screens would have been great in every single game, but the patent didn't lapse until load screens were basically no longer a thing.
Yeah,
these are ridiculous things, and patent sniping is maybe not what it's called. I can't remember the official term for it, but it's basically a thing where people will go. You see it a lot in tech companies where they'll go, "Oh, we're going to design a thing that could be possible, and patenting it just so nobody else can have it." We're not going to build it. We have no interest in building it, but we're just going to patent it so nobody else can have it, so none of our competitors can do better than us. It happens all the time, and it's gross. And it's absolutely gross. And they are one of the worst things that happen. I understand why people will go, well, no, I invented a thing, I should be able to keep it. And that's fine. But I think it should be on a thing of like, but you got to keep using it. You got to prove that you're continuously using it and using it to a quality that people want. Otherwise, it's got to lapse. I don't know. That's getting into very dodgy territory. Nintendo have sued other people before on patents. They sued White Cat Project. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. Nintendo sued White Cat Project developer Clopple. C-O-L-O-P-L. Clopple. For patent infringement in a 5-year battle.
5 years. Whoa.
Yeah. And they cited 5 patents on that.
Wow.
Clopple settled its lawsuit in 2021 for a reported 3.3 billion yen.
Whoa. Okay, yeah. Okay, right. Still a lot of money, though. Still
divided by 100. So what's that?
Yeah.
30 million or something?
Yeah, still a shed load of money.
Yeah.
Ooh. Wow.
So we don't know anything yet, really. This is all speculation, and I want you guys to know that going forward.
It is. I think that's quite a good point to talk about the tweet from Palworld.
Yes,
So
I was actually searching
lawsuits,
for it.
Yeah. Regarding the lawsuit yesterday, a lawsuit was filed against our company for patent infringement. We have received notice of this lawsuit and will begin the appropriate legal proceedings and investigations into the claims of patent infringement. At this moment, we are unaware of the specific patents we are accused of infringing upon, and we have not been notified of such details. Pocket Pair is a small indie game company based in Tokyo. Our goal as a company has always been to create fun games. We will continue to pursue this goal because we know that our games bring joy to millions of gamers around the world. Palworld was a surprise success this year, both for gamers and for us. We were blown away by the amazing response to the game, and we have been working hard to make it even better for our fans. We will continue improving Palworld and strive to create a game that our fans can be proud of. It is truly unfortunate that we'll be forced to allocate significant time to matters unrelated to game development due to this lawsuit. However, we will do our utmost for our fans and to ensure that indie game developers are not hindered or discouraged from pursuing their creative ideas. We apologize to our fans and supporters for any worry or discomfort that this news has caused. As always, thank you for your continued support of Palworld and Pocket Pair. So it's amazing to me that they've been told, yeah, you've thingied these patents, it's not allowed, but then not actually being told what patents they've.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that if you bring forth a lawsuit like that, you have to say like what the grounds you're suing on, more than just you've infringed on our patents. Which ones? We'll tell you later, but we're suing you.
Yeah.
Sorry. What?
Okay.
But I suppose that'll all be done in discovery and things like that.
Yeah.
This is going to be a very, very long, drawn-out battle.
I think it's going to be messy as well.
Yeah. I don't know if it's worth Pocket Pair fighting it. But Nintendo might ask for way too much for a settlement.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing in this. Nintendo, Game Freak, the Pokemon company, whatever they get out of this,
I don't. No,
nothing.
It's not.
Like, they are going to bury another company. If they win this, they're going to bury Pocket Pair. They're dead. They're dead in the war. There is no way they come back from this. They don't care how much they made off Palworld. It wasn't enough for this.
No.
And they're going to change the future of gaming. Because this is going to send a ripple effect across the entire industry. Patents have already been a thing. We've given you a couple of examples about what people like when they've been filed and what people have tried to avoid getting pulled up on. Now we're going to see like, no, we're going to file things and we're going to say yours is similar enough. And as you said, what happens if it's a case of, oh, well, you know, the next Call of Duty has a particular reload feature that they decide is particular enough that it's theirs. And now nobody else can use that reload feature. You know, so I don't know if they do, but thinking of reloading, Gears of War back in the day.
They've got that
you have that quick reload, don't you, if you do it at a certain timing.
Yeah.
I imagine they would have a patent on that because I've not seen anything else.
Exactly. And you know what? Which is really annoying because it's a great feature. It really, like, if you do it too soon or too late, you muck up your reload. If you do it just in time, then it's faster. If you do it in that split second, then not only do you get a perfect reload, you get a boost to your damage output as well. It's a great feature and something that we haven't seen outside of Gears of War. This is why this is so dangerous, because we could potentially get to the point where so many patents are locked down that games just, and we're already seeing some of this, maybe because of patents, of games just are samey because you create your game and you're like, well, all these great patents we can't use, we can only use the ones that we've got. And games therefore can't really develop or grow because I'd imagine, you know, there's only so many innovative and unique ideas that the human mind can have, unfortunately. You know, it just makes games boring because they all just become the same.
Yeah. And or they don't become the same. They become less than they could be, I think is the issue. what upsets me the most about this one is that Palworld succeeded not because of what it did that was similar to Pokemon. Palworld succeeded because of what it did that was different.
Exactly.
In my opinion, and you can argue both ways, but to me, people looked at it and went, it's like Pokemon. Ooh, but. And it's the but that made it interesting. Like, we talked at length about the things that we wish Pokemon would steal from Palworld.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny that we were like, oh yeah, Pokemon should adopt a bunch of these ideas. And now Pokemon are going, you dared adopt any of our ideas, we're going to sue you over it.
Yep.
It's just the different worlds we live in as consumers and as developers. Well, not developers. Yep. Let's not pretend it's the developers making this argument. It's not holding companies who own the rights and things like that. The money men at the top are trying to make money here, not the developers.
No, it's not. I have seen comments online as well, and I don't think this will happen. Because Nintendo's going after Palworld and Pocket Pair. It's not going after the consoles that it's on. But I've seen a couple of people speculating that, what happens if like Sony gets involved in this, because Palworld is now available on the PS5 in, I think I said 58 countries and regions.
It is actually available, because you were going to check this before the episode.
So it's now available on PS5, but not in Japan. It's not available in Japan, which is interesting, says a lot, especially with regards to this. I've seen some speculation about, maybe Sony gets involved, because, Sony might be seen to want to protect companies that are on their console. I don't think Sony wants to fight this either, to be quite honest with you. I think Sony
just going to ignore the fact that it's on Microsoft consoles and launched on Microsoft as well.
Yeah.
It was a Game Pass launch.
I think, Microsoft and Sony would go, listen, we'll put you on our console and we'll take the profit, but you know what? If your company shuts down and we have to take it off in X amount of years, we've made our cut. Sorry, see ya. Like, this is on you. They're not going to get involved. This is literally Pocket Pair. This is Nintendo and the Pokemon Company, and I think it's going to be messy. I think it's going to be messy from not just the legal point of view, but messy from the point of view of fans. There is a subset of gaming players that already hate Pokemon, that already hate Nintendo because of what they are seen to be like in terms of, we'll go after anyone for any little minor infringement. And I've already seen some of the arguments either way, and I think what doesn't help is the fact that people just don't understand what this is about. I've seen comments where they've had that headline and people have jumped straight in and gone, oh well, it's like, look how close the sheep thing, whatever it's called, looks to Wooloo. And it's like, but then you have people then commenting going, yeah, it's a sheep. Like, how much can you design a sheep to not look like a sheep? And people just arguing and fighting. And it's just one of those unfortunate things where, in the comment section that I've been in, people don't even want to get to the facts. They just want a reason to argue with other people, which is why this I think is just going to be very messy over the next couple of years, because it's not going to be a quick thing. I mean, the alternative is Palworld changes these, whatever these painted infringements are. But while that might save them moving forward, it doesn't suddenly make Nintendo go, oh, okay, right, we'll leave you to it. It's fine. Nintendo will still come after them.
Yeah.
It's messy. I think that unfortunately no one wins from this. Unfortunately, at least us as consumers, we don't win from this. We don't win from this. We just lose, and all this sends is a message of,
as Pokemon fans, this doesn't make Pokemon better.
It doesn't. No, unfortunately, and we said this when we reviewed Palworld. And we didn't review Palworld because it was the hit thing at the time. We reviewed Palworld because there were some very very good things in Palworld that should have been implemented in Pokemon a very long time ago and would have improved it. And they weren't even big features either. And the problem here is, if this patent goes through, it kind of means that like creature capturing games, kind of, I just can't see them ever competing with Pokemon.
No, especially if they win on the ones that people are expecting them to fight on, which basically is just first-person monster catching.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like I haven't played Palworld in a while, but I must admit I must have sunk about 50, 60 hours into it. And I had a load of fun on it. And I haven't played Temtem. I've only played Cassette Beasts a tiny amount and a handful of other, creature capturing games in the past. Will I ever play any of them outside of maybe a couple of hours? Probably not. But do I want them to just completely fall off? No, because any company needs competitors, and they need competitors because therefore you can't just rest on your laurels. You have to continue to improve and change and adapt. And if the Pokemon company and games developed by Game Freak have no competitors, that's not a good thing for Pokemon. It's not.
Yeah.
And I just hope that Palworld does stay around because I think they do bring some great things to that space.
As you say, this is going to be long, it's going to be drawn out, and you can get all news and updates here on the Pokemon Podcast, Goldenrod Podcast. I forgot what we were called for a second. I was getting too much into the character. Yeah, we'll keep you updated. As soon as we know news, you'll know news. We just try and make sure that it is actual news rather than, Pokemon are suing. Over what? Nobody knows yet.
Yeah,
so
no one knows.
Here we go. We're going to speculate. Which is kind of what we did a little bit today, but we had a little bit more information than maybe you've seen on Twitter.
That's the show for this week. If you've gotten this far, you're just top dollar, aren't you? Before you go, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave a review on the podcast platform of your choice. If you're watching on YouTube, then please leave a like, as it really helps out our podcast. If you've got a comment or question, you can reach us by leaving a comment on our podcast on YouTube, by emailing goldenrodpod@gmail.com, or by leaving it on our Discord channel. You can't leave it on Twitter. Twitter's dead. Connor, where can we find you?
Because Twitter is dead, you can only find me on my YouTube channel at Captain Fidget.
I'm Ben. You can find me as Professor Hoenn Gaming on YouTube. We'll be back next Friday for another week of Pokemon podcast content.
See ya!